I was 14 when I spotted an ad in the Stage. A music production company called Reproduction was looking for a solo singer aged 16. I phoned the number, but knowing that I was too young, I realised they wouldn't even consider seeing me on my own, so I asked if they would like to see a group of girls together, thinking I could get my mates Claudia Hill, Dion Compton and Julia Jones to muck in with me. "You do know that we're looking for singers of 16 and over," the voice on the other end of the phone told me. Yeah, I know," I replied, "but I'm in a group. We just want to come along and show you what we can do." My bluff must have worked, because the voice suddenly sounded quite enthusiastic and agreed to meet us. As soon as I put the phone down after blagging our audition, I got on the case with the other girls. Claudia and Dion were up for it, of course, as was my friend Julia, who was boarding at my house at the time. Our first audition had been set up at the Danceworks studio just off of London's Bond Street, and we had a couple of days to polish up our act. As we'd often sing and dance together anyway, it didn't seem too much of a problem. The day of the audition clashed with school, so we arranged to go to Danceworks first so we could do our thing and still make it to school without anyone knowing what we were up to. At Danceworks, we met some of Reproduction's people: Brian Harris, who ran the management side of things with Anna and Mark Jolly, and Teresa Wolfe, who would be looking after whoever they signed up. They all seemed okay. They certainly didn't bat an eyelid when they saw the four of us aged 13 to 16 and plastered in makeup. Our audition routine was made up of some of our favourite songs. We did 1, 2, 3 by Gloria Estefan, the Bangles' hit Eternal Flame, and Beverly Craven's ballad Promise Me. We rounded it off with another hit of the day, Hippie Chick by Soho. What we hadn't bargained for was them saying that they didn't want all four of us. When they came back to us about 3 weeks later, they called my mum first, they said that they were interested in taking us on, but while Julia was great, they didn't want her. They felt that Julia was too much of a ballerina who wasn't funky enough to fit into a pop group like ours. "Listen," they told us, "we think we can get you off the ground, but I'm afraid we don't want Julia. Can you deal with that?" It was a horrendous position to be in. The fact that Julia lived with us made it doubly tough. She was really upset, of course, but there was nothing we could do about it. At this stage, we didn't even have a name for the group, but as we now had a contract, we had to dream up a catchy name. In the end, one of us, I can't remember who, came up with the idea of Milan. It turned out that we all loved Milan in Italy, and even though I hadn't been there, it just sounded so glamorous to me, and so Milan it was. The first track we recorded for Polydor was a cover of Is It Love You're After by Rolls Royce, followed by a dancey number called Affectionately Mine. The third and best song we cut was a song called Lead Me On. All three were heavily dance-influenced tunes, less poppy than I had envisaged, but that's what the management and production companies had in mind for us. We were top 10 in the dance charts with all three singles, but that didn't automatically mean we were selling a lot of records, which in turn meant that we weren't automatically making any money. To promote ourselves and our music, we toured and played club gigs around the country. Now, obviously somebody was getting paid somewhere along the line for all our work, but it wasn't us. Just before my 16th birthday, Mum delivered a bombshell. She told me she was pregnant, which was doubly surprising considering she had been told by doctors that she would never be able to have another baby. My reaction was strange. I couldn't get my head round the fact that there was going to be another human being walking around in our house, another human being who was going to call my mum, Mum. Yet Lawrence's arrival, 6 months later, was one of the best things that has ever happened to me. When I first saw him, I immediately went all gooey. "I've got a little brother," I thought to myself, and only then realised how much I'd always wanted somebody else in the family. Having a brother, someone to share my mother's love with, gave me some space, which I may have struggled to find without him. To an extent, Lawrence's birth released me a little from my mum's bosom. We both let each other go a bit. Without that space, I think I would have struggled to develop a proper relationship with a man. That's not to say that my brother's birth was a magical cure-all for our family's problems. Money was still very tight, and it was obvious even to my youthful eyes that things weren't going great with my mum and my stepdad. John was still very keen on Mum as far as I could tell, but his old-fashioned values and black and white view of the world didn't seem to fit with hers anymore. Somehow, despite all the distractions at home and with Milan, I managed to study and ended up passing 9 of my exams, including an A for drama, a B for English and history, and a C in art. With exams out of the way, I was ready to give Milan my full commitment. We were ready to take on the world. Although Claudia, myself and Dion got on well, strains, rivalries and jealousy inevitably exist in any band. I felt frustrated because I wasn't getting to sing any lead vocals, and as time went on, Dion realised that maybe a pop career wasn't for her anyway. Although she lacked confidence, she was an important part of the group and a great dancer. Claudia was in the hardest position of all because she could do the dancing and manage the singing, but found it incredibly gruelling juggling all of that with school as well. She was only 13 when we started and still had 2 years of Italia Conti ahead of her. For some reason, the management always preferred Claudia to do the lead vocals than me. I felt increasingly sidelined and neglected. I was the one who'd got everyone off their asses to go for it, yet suddenly I found myself reduced to the role of a backing vocalist. I felt I wasn't considered as sexy as Dion because she was blonde and gorgeous, while my voice lacked that deep clubby feel that Claudia's had. Milan had been together for about 2 years before we went on the road. Almost immediately I realised we were not one of the record company's priority acts. We must have played every dingy club there is. We weren't getting any radio play and we weren't getting any decent TV spots other than an appearance on The Big Breakfast and a few other pop programmes. In my imagination, I started thinking that the only reason Milan had been brought into existence was so that somebody at Polydor could say in their weekly meeting, "Oh yeah, the girls are in Doncaster tonight," which made them look busy. Claudia used to do her schoolwork on the coach or in the car, while Dion, who was a real brain of Britain and very bright, would help. We stayed in the hotels that were more like flea pits. "Surely we're not staying here?" I used to ask on arrival. In one place, all 3 of us had to share one tiny room where the 3 beds were pulled down from the wall and the bathroom only had freezing cold water. Milan was slowly becoming a nightmare. Everything was feeling out of control. I could feel it all just sliding away from under me, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. By the start of 1994, it was clear Milan was not long for this world, and even the other 2 girls were beginning to see that. Nobody from the label was coming to see us, nobody was interested, and we could only kid ourselves for so long. The band was destroying our lives, though I sensed it was me that was still being blamed for most of our troubles. It was a bad time all round, but there was one bright spot on the horizon. I met this lovely man called Gareth Cook. I'd never have met him if it wasn't for Milan, so something good did come out of the band after all. It wasn't me that spotted him first, it was Dion. We were both standing by the bar in Hollywood's, dressed to the nines, when she nudged me. "Look," she said, nodding towards the DJ in a booth in the middle of the dance floor. "It's John Louis." John was a DJ we'd met in Tenerife, a great guy, and the 3 of us had got on well during that sun-soaked holiday. "We can go and chat to him about all the good times we've had out there," she gushed, urging me on. But I wasn't so sure. "I don't think it is John," I told her, "but he's really nice all the same." We giggled as only girls in nightclubs do, until Dion could wait no longer and took control of the situation. "We'll go and talk to him anyway." "I can't," I said. Zeroing in on a man and chatting him up has never been my style, although a few moments later, spurred on by Dion, I thought if I approached the DJ booth and requested a record, it wouldn't be as obvious as just chatting him up cold. So I sauntered over and asked this good-looking man to give it a spin. I asked for the Judge Jules remix of Excited, which had a Latin-Spanish flavour and was a vast improvement on the original. I could tell he was impressed by my left-field request and that I even knew the mix existed. "How do you know it?" he asked. Blushing, I told him shyly, "I'm really into my music." Stilted our conversation may have been, but we could both sense something more was going on between us. We didn't seem to be able to take our eyes off each other, and I thought he was lovely. From the minute we met, there was this instant chemistry, the kind of thing that only happens a couple of times in your life if you're lucky. I knew it with all my heart. "My name's Martine," I said as I turned on my heels and headed back to my spot at the bar next to Dion. "And I'm Gareth," his voice called after me. With all this stuff sizzling away unspoken between us, I made it my mission to return to that club to see what would unfold. The following Friday we returned, and Gareth told me he had quit a job in the city as a money broker to work at Hollywood's. His real passion was music, and so he decided to chuck in his career and have a go at what he liked best, clubbing and DJing. He and his friend Tony Grimley had persuaded the owners of Hollywood's to launch a new night called Culture Shock. The idea was that they would play more 90s tunes than the usual Friday night fodder, which was mainly pop and dance cuts from the 1980s. Culture Shock became a popular night almost immediately, and Gareth, Tony and the club made a lot of money from it. The other bit of news wasn't so good. Gareth was dating a girl called Vicky Morley, who at 16 was a year younger than me and 8 years younger than Gareth. I went home that night feeling gutted. I met a lovely, bright, attractive guy, and he already had a girlfriend. But all was not lost. I had an ally at Hollywood's in the shape of Gordon Phillips, one of the club's managers. We were good mates, and I recall he always used to go on about how I reminded him of one of his ex-girlfriends. Gordon knew I was a bit strapped for cash and used to let me in the club for nothing, not to mention sorting me out with free drinks. After 5 or 6 weeks hanging out, gulping at Gareth on Friday nights at Hollywood's, he made his first move. I was chatting to him as usual at the DJ booth when he suddenly whispered, "Listen, I'd like to give you my number, but if anybody asks what I'm doing, just say you were asking me to get you that mix of excited that you want. Now give me your number," he said, "and I'll let you know when I get the record." The following week I saw him again. "I didn't manage to get the record," Gareth grinned, "but I've still got your number." I needed to know what the score was regarding Gareth's feelings for me, so one night I quizzed him face to face over his relationship with Vicky. "Yeah, we've been seeing each other for about 6 months. Then he added, "But I do think you're lovely, Martine. I think you're absolutely lovely, and I'd love to go out with you. The trouble is I can't do that to Vicky because we work together. She's here at the club during the week and helps me promote Culture Shock. I'm sorry, babe, but I couldn't do it to her." I must have known Gareth for about 2.5 months when he called me at Mum's. "We're going to a night called Club Brawl on the Charing Cross Road. Judge Jules is going to be there. You'll have to come down." "Is Vicky going to be there?" I asked. He said she wasn't. "OK," I said, "I'll meet you there." I put the phone down. My heart was going 19 to the dozen. I spent ages rummaging through my things, looking for something to wear. I ended up picking out a glittery 70s-style navy halter-neck top with flashes of silver running through it. It was done up with thin little ties and showed a lot of flesh. It went perfectly with a long velvety blue skirt with a daring split up the side and trendy boots. It was a very clubby, dare I say tarty look, and totally in keeping with the style of clubs like $1 Billion Babes, which was the place at the time. I wasn't going to go alone, of that I was certain. Dion couldn't make it, so I persuaded her sister Leanne to come along with me. The trains were only going so far that night for some reason, so we had to get off, walk to the next station and catch another. That one broke down, so off we got again to catch a bus. Problem solved? Not quite. The bus had the wrong sign up and we ended up walking most of the way. When we finally got there, it was gone 1:30 a.m. I was going on 3 hours late. Squeezing through the enthusiastic clubbers, I explained the reason for my tardiness, got Gareth on his feet, dragged him to the dance floor, had a bit of a bop, and then, well, by then it was time to leave. So much for our great first date. We shared a taxi home, stopping at my house first. Gareth made to kiss me. "No," I said firmly, "I can't do that because you've already got a girlfriend." Gareth persisted. "Well, why don't we just have a little one?" I could hold out no longer. I was in 7th heaven as I hopped out of the taxi and bounced indoors. I'm in love, I thought. I'm in love. My heart told me Gareth felt the same way. He certainly couldn't wait to call again as the phone rang early the next day. He wanted to see me. We needed to talk, he said. We arranged to meet at Pizza Express in Brentwood for dinner. I was rapidly running out of outfits to dazzle him with, and that combined with butterflies, my feverish imagination and my thudding heart must have affected my judgment when it came to choosing the best of what was left. I ended up in trousers that were too big around the waist, which I then hitched up too far so that the bottoms were halfway round my ankles. I grabbed a white slim-fitting t-shirt and then searched for a jacket. The one that went with the trousers was at the cleaners and nothing else matched. I ended up slipping on this huge woolen cardigan instead. I reckon I looked a bit like Frank Spencer gone wrong. Dinner was difficult. Listen, Gareth said, I think you're really lovely, Martine, but I really feel bad about Vicky. I think perhaps we should just be friends. OK, we'll be friends, I echoed calmly. I didn't want somebody who didn't want me. I could easily accept that we were to be nothing more than mates, even if my heart wanted more. I was upset, sure, but did my best to conceal it. So when it came to saying goodbye, I allowed him a peck on my cheek. No more. Can't I have a kiss on the lips, he asked. No, I said, because friends don't kiss goodbye on the lips. On the last night of the final Milan tour, Dion and I decided to celebrate by going straight to Hollywood's after the gig. We were still togged up in our Milan outfits, little red velvet trouser suits, and I saw Gareth almost as soon as I got to the club. "You know, I've really missed you. It's so lovely to see you," he said, giving me a huge bear hug. I told him my 18th birthday was coming up the following week. The very next day, he finished with his girlfriend, and a couple of days after my 18th birthday, Gareth and I became an item. As our relationship went from good to better, Milan went from bad to worse, until it was finally time to call an end to the fiasco. Our third single, Lead Me On, came out to no fanfares, no publicity, and generated no real interest, though I thought it was the best track we'd done. We'd all had enough of it by then. Brian Harris was the first to bring it up in the back of the space wagon which was ferrying us away from what turned out to be our last radio interview. "It's pretty much up to you," he said. Claudia didn't hesitate. "I think it's time to end." "I don't mind, whatever," Dion added. For my part, I just nodded. I was exhausted from the touring and gutted about the way my dreams of stardom had failed. Abandoning Milan was a bad time, that's for sure, but being with Gareth certainly cushioned the blow. I went from being a budding pop star 1 minute to a job in Knickerbox at £1.50 an hour. To add to my growing sense of shame and disappointment, I also felt I'd let Mum down because she'd invested so much time and energy in helping me get to Italia Conti and make something of myself, and there I was, not earning any money and a complete misery to live with. Gareth was the only bright spot. He was kind and thoughtful and seemed as smitten with me as I was with him, whether we were grabbing a TV dinner or visiting his family in Wales. Everything just fitted together perfectly for us. I had no insecurities as far as past relationships were concerned because I'd never had a proper boyfriend before. Gareth was more sceptical. "You're so young and you've got so much ahead of you," he'd say. "It worries me that one day you'll grow out of me." I couldn't see what he was driving at because I felt so secure in his arms. Gareth lived in Dartford in Kent. After we'd been going out for a couple of months or so, I began to stay the night. And as time went on, I trusted him more and more until I felt the time was right to lose my virginity. Perhaps because I waited or chose the right man, I remember it was a wonderful experience, everything it should be. There was a lovely relaxed build-up. That evening, even though nothing was said, I just knew that this was going to be the night. On Sunday morning, I woke up and couldn't wait to get back and tell Mum. I walked in the front door and bounded over to her. "Do you notice anything different about me?" I asked her teasingly. "No." "You must be able to tell something's happened. I thought mothers could tell." "Mum," I cried, "I've become a woman." "I suppose you'd better have a bacon sandwich then, you must be starving." We both howled with laughter.